The late 15th century, Joseon. The air in the capital was thick with the rigid hierarchy of the era, the stifling rules of the court, and the whispered anxieties of a kingdom on the cusp of change. Ji-ho, a young scholar of Sungkyunkwan, possessed not the imposing presence of a nobleman, but a quiet intensity in his eyes. He was the second son of a minor official, his future tethered to the upcoming civil service examination, a path both promising and precarious. He first saw Yeon amidst the vibrant hues of a spring festival. She wasn't adorned in the ostentatious silks of the highest nobility, but her hanbok, the color of a blooming lotus, spoke of a refined upbringing. She was the daughter of Seo Munik, the royal physician, a man revered for his healing hands. Yeon moved with a grace that belied a sharp mind. Her knowledge of medicinal herbs, surprisingly extensive, gleaned from years spent observing her father. Their initial encounters were accidental, fleeting. A shared glance across a crowded marketplace, a brief exchange of words at a poetry gathering. Yet, each encounter was a spark. Ji-ho found himself drawn to her quiet strength, her subtle wit, a spirit that seemed to bloom even within the confines of societal expectations. Yeon, in turn, saw in him a steadfastness that contrasted with the frivolous young nobleman who often sought her attention. "You seem to prefer the company of ancient texts to the revelry," Yeon observed one evening, a hint of amusement in her voice. They were standing near a stall displaying calligraphy brushes, the sounds of the festival a vibrant backdrop to their quiet conversation. Ji-ho, usually reserved, found himself smiling. "The wisdom of the ancients is a more reliable companion than fleeting pleasures, Lady Yeon. Yet, even the wisest scholars need respite," she countered, her eyes twinkling. "Perhaps a taste of honeyed rice cakes will provide such respite?" He accepted, and as they shared the simple treat, a connection formed, unspoken yet undeniable. It was a fragile thing, this burgeoning affection, built on shared glances and stolen moments, a delicate bloom in the rigid garden of Joseon society. It was, however, doomed from the start. News arrived like a sudden storm, shattering the tranquility of their lives. Royal physician Seo, Yeon's father, a man of unwavering loyalty, was accused of treason. The whispers spoke of a plot to poison the king, a conspiracy woven with the threads of courtly intrigue and fueled by the ambitions of those who sought to control the throne. The Seo household, once filled with the comforting aroma of medicinal herbs and the gentle murmur of scholarly discussions, was plunged into darkness. Yeon watched, helpless, as her father was dragged away, his pleas of innocence lost in the clamor of accusations. Her mother, a woman of delicate constitution, was unable to withstand the shock, her health rapidly deteriorating. Ji-ho, hearing the news, felt a cold dread grip his heart. He rushed to the Seo residence, only to find it sealed, guarded by soldiers who turned him away with harsh words. The world, once filled with the promise of spring, had turned bleak and unforgiving. He was powerless, a mere scholar against the machinations of the powerful. But he refused to yield. He would study. He would excel. He would find a way to help the woman he loved. He had to. His heart was filled with a fierce protectiveness, a feeling of love that was both tender and passionate. He yearned to be near her. Yeon, stripped of her status and facing a grim future, was given a choice, a cruel mockery of choice, really. She could become a concubine to one of the officials involved in her father's downfall, a fate that filled her with revulsion, or she could enter a Gisaeng house, a place of entertainment where women were trained in the arts of music, dance, and conversation. She chose the latter, a decision born not of resignation, but of a fierce, burning resolve. The Gisaeng house, while a place of social degradation, offered a sliver of opportunity. It was a place where the powerful gathered, where secrets were whispered, and where influence could be subtly wielded. Yeon would not be a victim. She would become a weapon. She entered the Jade Lotus House, the most renowned Gisaeng establishment in the capital. The Hangsu Gisaeng, head Gisaeng, a woman named Madame Cho, saw in Yeon not just a beautiful face, but a keen intelligence, a rare combination that could be honed to perfection. "You possess the grace of a lotus child," Madame Cho observed, her voice surprisingly gentle, "but also the resilience of its roots. You will learn to use both." Yeon's training was rigorous. She mastered the Gejium, her fingers bleeding as she plucked the strings, drawing forth melodies that mirrored the turmoil in her heart. She learned the intricate steps of traditional dances, her movements fluid and captivating. She honed her conversational skills, learning to parry words with wit and charm, to discern the hidden meanings behind veiled pronouncements. And, crucially, she continued to study her father's medical texts, memorizing the properties of herbs, both healing and harmful. This skill set her apart, the art of a physician and the beauty of a Gisaeng. She found an unexpected ally in Yeon, a fellow Gisaeng known for her sharp wit and even sharper tongue. Yeon had seen her share of injustices, and she recognized in Yeon a kindred spirit, a woman who refused to be broken. "The men who come here," Yeon said, her voice low and laced with cynicism, "they see us as playthings, as diversions. But we can be more. We can be their downfall." Yeon, remembering her purpose, nodded. It would be a dangerous game, but she was prepared to play. Her heart ached for Jiho, for the future they had dreamed of, a future that now seemed impossibly distant. But she clung to the hope, however faint, that she could somehow, someday, clear her father's name and reclaim her life. Meanwhile, Jiho, consumed by grief and determination, immersed himself in his studies. He haunted the libraries of Seduction, poring over legal texts, historical records, anything that might shed light on the conspiracy that had ensnared Yeonhwa's father. He excelled in his classes, his intellect sharpened by his desperation. But he also faced opposition. Choi Sang-yoon, a fellow student and the son of a powerful minister, saw Jiho as a rival. He was arrogant and entitled, accustomed to getting his way. He also, it turned out, harbored a secret infatuation with Yeonhwa, a fact that fueled his animosity towards Jiho. Their interactions, though limited to begin, grew heavier with the weight of competition and unsaid threats. Sang-yoon's power was always present and would often serve to thwart any progress Jiho hoped to make. "You waste your time, Jiho," Sang-yoon sneered one day, blocking Jiho's path in the courtyard of Seduction. "Some flowers are meant to wither in the shadows. Best to focus on your studies, lest you end up joining her." Jiho's fists clenched, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Justice will prevail, Sang-yoon. Truth cannot be hidden forever." Sang-yoon laughed, a cruel, dismissive sound. "Truth? In this city, truth is whatever the powerful deem it to be." The exchange fueled Jiho's resolve. He would not only excel in his studies, but he would also learn the ways of the court, the subtle art of navigating the treacherous currents of power. He knew he needed allies, but trust was a rare commodity in the viper's nest of Joseon politics. He found them in the most unlikely places. A few fellow students shared his desire for justice, and they began sharing secrets of their own. Small at first, Jiho began to feel as if he may have a chance. Yeon, having honed her skills, began to attract attention. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was her intelligence and her knowledge of medicine that truly set her apart. She became known as the healing Lotus, a Gisaeng who could not only soothe the soul with music and conversation, but also ease the body with her knowledge of herbs and remedies. One evening, a particularly influential guest arrived at the Jade Lotus house, Yeon, the second prince. He was known for his ambition, his sharp mind, and his appreciation for beauty and talent. He was not the heir apparent, but he was a force to be reckoned with, a man constantly seeking an advantage in the endless game of courtly intrigue. Yeonhwa was chosen to entertain him. She played the Gisaeng, her music weaving a tapestry of sorrow and longing. She danced, her movements fluid and graceful, her eyes conveying a depth of emotion that captivated the prince. Then she surprised him. "Your Highness," she said, her voice soft yet clear, "I sense a tension in your shoulders, a tightness in your chest. May I offer you a tea brewed with herbs that will ease your discomfort?" Yeon, intrigued, agreed. Yeonhwa prepared the tea with meticulous care, using herbs she had gathered and dried herself. As he drank, he felt a wave of relaxation wash over him, a welcome respite from the constant pressures of his position. He felt alive. He felt drawn to her. "You are more than just a Gisaeng, Yeonhwa," he said, his voice low and laced with interest. "You possess a rare combination of beauty, talent, and knowledge." He could barely take his eyes off of her. "I am simply a woman who has learned to use whatever gifts she has been given, Your Highness," she replied, her gaze steady. Over the following weeks, Yeon became a frequent visitor to the Jade Lotus house, drawn to Yeonhwa's captivating presence. He confided in her, sharing his frustrations, his ambitions, his fears. He spoke of the corruption that festered within the court, the constant struggle for power, the precariousness of his own position. Yeon listened patiently, offering insightful comments and subtle suggestions. She learned to navigate the treacherous currents of his emotions, to play on his desires and insecurities. She used her knowledge of herbs to create subtle perfumes, scents that calmed him, invigorated him, or sharpened his mind, depending on her purpose. It was a slow process, a careful dance of seduction and manipulation, but she was determined to win his trust, to make him see her as more than just a beautiful distraction. She began to spend full nights with him. It was during this time that the true extent of her beauty was laid bare. The intimacy between them was charged with an unspoken tension. It was a dangerous game, fueled by ambition and desire, but also by a growing sense of connection. Lee Yeon, accustomed to the superficial flattery of courtly women, found himself drawn to Yeonhwa's honesty, her intelligence, her quiet strength. He found himself desiring her in a way that was new to him. He was obsessed. "You are a mystery, Yeonhwa," he said one night, tracing the curve of her cheek with his finger. "A beautiful, enigmatic mystery." "And you, Your Highness," she replied, her voice a whisper, "are a man who could change the world." Seon, ever watchful, observed Yeonhwa's progress with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Be careful, Yeonhwa," she warned. "Lee Yeon is a powerful man, but he is also a dangerous one. He is not to be trifled with." "I know the risks, Seon," Yeonhwa replied, "but I have no other choice. My father's life, my family's honor, depend on it." She had thought of Jiho often. The thought of him gave her strength, but also filled her with a deep sadness. She knew that her path might lead her far from him, perhaps forever. Meanwhile, Jiho continued his relentless pursuit of justice. He excelled in his studies, earning the highest marks in the preliminary examinations. He also cultivated relationships with a few sympathetic officials, men who were disgusted by the corruption that plagued the court. But he was constantly hampered by Choi Song-yoon, who used his family's influence to undermine Jiho's efforts. One evening, Jiho received a clandestine message, a summons to a secret meeting. He went, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. He found himself in a dimly lit room, facing a group of men shrouded in shadows. "We know of your plight, Jiho," one of the men said, his voice grave. "We know of the injustice done to the royal physician Seo. We believe he is innocent." "Who are you?" Jiho asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We are those who seek to restore justice to this kingdom," the man replied. "We are those who believe that the truth must prevail, no matter the cost." The men revealed themselves to be members of a secret society, a group of officials and scholars who were dedicated to fighting corruption and upholding the law. They had been investigating the conspiracy against Seo Mun-ik, and they had uncovered evidence that pointed to a powerful minister, a man who was close to the king. This man was Choi Sang-yoon's father. The society offered Jiho their support, but they warned him of the dangers. "This is a treacherous path. Jiho," the leader said, "you will be facing powerful enemies. Your life will be at risk." Jiho did not hesitate. "I am prepared to face any danger," he said, his voice firm. "I will not rest until justice is done." He began working with the society, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, piecing together the puzzle of the conspiracy. He knew that time was running out, the king's health was failing, and the struggle for succession was intensifying. Lee Yeon was a strong contender, but he faced opposition from other factions within the court. Yeonhwa, meanwhile, continued her delicate dance with Lee Yeon. She had gained his trust, his affection, and even a measure of his respect. She knew that he was on the verge of making his move, of challenging for the throne. She decided it was time to reveal her true identity. One night, as they lay together in his private chambers, she spoke. "Your Highness," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "there is something you must know about me." She told him her story, the story of her father's wrongful imprisonment, the story of her own descent into the life of a Gisaeng. She told him everything, holding back nothing. Lee Yeon listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When she was finished, he sat up, his eyes searching hers. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. "Because I believe you are a man of justice," she replied. "Because I believe you are the only one who can help me. "And what is it you want from me?" he asked, his voice guarded. "I want you to clear my father's name," she said. "I want you to punish those who wronged him. And I want you to become the king this kingdom deserves." Lee Guillaume was silent for a long moment, his mind racing. He knew that Yeonhwa's story, if true, could be a powerful weapon in his struggle for the throne. It could expose the corruption of his enemies and rally support for his cause. But it was also a dangerous game. If he failed, he could lose everything. He thought back on their time together. He thought of her beauty, her touch, her smell. He could not live without her. "I will help you, Yeonhwa," he said finally. "But you must understand, this will not be easy. There will be risks for both of us." "I am prepared to face any risk, Your Highness," she replied, her eyes shining with determination. Lee Guillaume, fueled by Yeonhwa's information and his own ambition, began to move against his enemies. He used his influence to gather support, to expose the corruption within the court, to undermine the position of his rivals. He knew that he needed a decisive victory, a move that would solidify his claim to the throne. Meanwhile, Ji-ho, working with the secret society, had gathered enough evidence to prove Seo Moon-ik's innocence and to expose the true conspirators. The evidence pointed directly to Choi Sang-yoon's father, the powerful minister who had orchestrated the plot to poison the king. Ji-ho presented the evidence to the society, and they agreed that it was time to act. They planned to present the evidence to the king, but they knew that they would face fierce opposition. They needed a powerful ally, someone who could protect them from the wrath of the conspirators. They turned to Lee Guillaume. They knew of his relationship with Yeonhwa, and they believed that he might be willing to help. They sent a message to Yeonhwa, asking her to intercede on their behalf. Yeonhwa, upon receiving the message, realized that the moment of truth had arrived. She had to choose between her loyalty to Ji-ho and her commitment to Lee Guillaume. She knew that if she betrayed Lee Guillaume, she could lose everything. But if she remained silent, she could betray the man she loved, the man who would risk everything to help her. She decided to take a gamble. She went to Lee Guillaume and told him everything. She told him about Ji-ho, about the secret society, about the evidence they had gathered. She told him that the men who had framed her father were also plotting against him, that they were a threat to his ambition and to the future of the kingdom. Lee Guillaume was furious. He had been used, manipulated, but he also saw the truth in Yeonhwa's words. He knew that the conspirators were a threat, and he knew that he needed to act quickly. It did, however, break his heart, knowing that the woman who had laid bare before him had feelings for another. He summoned Ji-ho and the leaders of the secret society to a secret meeting. He listened to their evidence, his anger growing with each revelation. He realized that he had been blind to the corruption that surrounded him, that he had been too focused on his own ambition to see the truth. "I will help you," he said, his voice filled with a newfound resolve. "I will bring these traitors to justice, but I will also claim what is rightfully mine. I will become the king, and I will rule this kingdom with justice and wisdom." With Lee Guillaume's support, the conspirators were exposed and arrested. Choi Sang-yoon's father was found guilty of treason and executed. Choi Sang-yoon, consumed by guilt and shame, took his own life. Seo Moon-ik was released from prison, his name cleared, his honor restored. He was reunited with his daughter, their reunion filled with tears of joy and relief. He had worried sick about her and was forever grateful to his soon-to-be son, Ji-ho. Ji-ho, having played a crucial role in uncovering the conspiracy, was hailed as a hero. He was offered a high position in the government, a position that would allow him to continue his fight for justice. Lee Guillaume, having successfully navigated the treacherous currents of courtly intrigue, ascended to the throne. He became a wise and just ruler, known for his compassion and his dedication to his people. The nation rejoiced. Yeonhwa, having achieved her goal of clearing her father's name, was finally free. She was no longer a Gisaeng, but a woman of honor, a woman who had used her intelligence and her courage to overcome adversity. She had saved her father and her nation. She was torn, though. She had feelings for the new king, but her heart belonged to another. She and Ji-ho were reunited, their love tested by fire but ultimately strengthened. They were married in a simple ceremony, surrounded by their families and friends. Their embrace was more passionate than it had ever been. The trials they had faced only made their feelings stronger. They lived a long and happy life together, their love a testament to the power of hope and the enduring strength of the human spirit.